Yo, yo.
Yo, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome, bro. How are you?
Doing pretty good, thank you.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. So let me just start off by saying, obviously, this is going to be a video. If there's some parts that you don't want to be included, like if there's a question that's very difficult and you don't want released, obviously I'll remove it. That's no problem.
All
Uh,
right.
if there's a question you're not comfortable with answering, I'll remove the question. You can just not say anything. That's fine. So let's just start off by saying, who are you? And when did your passion for Bakugan start?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Psychic. And I've been a fan of Bakugan honestly since it ever came out, to be honest. Yeah, so known about Bakugan, I think since I was around 8 years old, and it's always just been something that kind of stuck with. Um, yeah, I've always had a past with Bakugan from in real life, whether it was in school, I was playing it, or online, whether it was Baku Project, even those emulator games. So Bakugan has always kind of just been something pretty consistent. So when I had the opportunity to go ahead and play it or even acquire it, that was definitely something that was in my goal to go ahead and do. I served in the military for 4 years straight out of high school. So some of those values that you do get in from your training, definitely transferred over into my leadership. So that's definitely something that I want you guys to see, who I am. I could tell you who I am, but it'd be better for me to show you who I am. So then that way you guys can kind of, make up your own perspective about who I am as a leader and as a person.
Oh shit, okay. So you're saying that we're gonna see who you are based on the game that you're currently developing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think actions speak louder than words? That's nice.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure.
I mean, we did have a previous owner that was all words.
Yeah.
So would be nice to see a change. But
Definitely.
okay. So you've obviously been a fan of Bakugan for a while. Do you still watch Bakugan actively? Like, do you ever go back and rewatch it? Do you watch Bakugan
Uh,
content? Like,
Yeah, literally right now, I think I'm on season two. I just reached the part where in season two they just came back to Earth after defeating the last dimensional destroyer. So I tend to rewatch Bakugan a lot. So
same.
yeah, yeah.
Based. I was just about to start season 2 again.
Oh,
All
really?
right. Yep. Okay. So how long have you been a Roblox dev for? Because we're
Uh,
talking definitely 5 years, right?
yeah, so I've been developing a little bit since 2018, and then obviously I had a little bit of a gap period while I was in the military, just due to it was more of an inconsistent kind of developing at that point in time, just because of life at that time didn't really offer much free time. But since then, I've been kind of going back into it. So I would just say a good 4 to 5 ish years, of consistent developing.
Okay. And how many of those? Well, not years. How long have you been a part of Bloxugon for? Considering they were doing Bakugan as well, and you were on
Yeah,
that team.
so Bloxagon, that's way back in 2020, and I think Bloxagon was maybe about 2 to 3 ish months ago. I know Spark and I, we kind of had that conversation where we did find out that we didn't actually meet each other, and by the time she had joined the Bloxagon team, I was already gone. So um, yeah, I think it was around like maybe 2 ish months ago type of thing, with like a 2 week period that her and I kind of had a where we didn't even meet, where I left 2 weeks and then she came in and joined the team.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So I mean, I got sent a 2 hour clip or a 2 hour video of the
Mhm.
Q and A because I couldn't participate in it. I was gonna participate, but I had IRL issues. So I saw it and I was like, damn. So why are people not asking questions that are relevant? And why is drama starting in this fucking chat? Because this is a Bakugan game. I've said this multiple times on my channel, and the fact that drama is being started based off of a fan game of something you don't even have conclusive evidence of. Why in the fuck are you talking? So I really want to say good job. I'm not taking the bait. Good job not falling for the drama stuff and getting aggressive. I like that you're staying calm. collected. That's what we like to see. Because if I were you, I'd probably crash out. Probably, maybe. But yeah, that's nice. Okay. Um, so next question I got: will you actually post sneak peeks as often as Julius did? And if you are, will they be irrelevant sneak peeks, not just pictures?
So I saw with Julius sneak peeks, he never really showed gameplay, or it was just kind of more so of like maybe 10-second clips of like a roar or maybe of some like visual effects type of thing, which I know over a while of time it's going to cause people to kind of be disheartened and discouraged just due to the fact you don't really see where, especially for Patreon people who contributed, where your money is going. So we have decided also we're revamping everything. There was a discussion I had with my staff team, with the developers, when I took over the game and I got to access to the studio. I got to kind of see everything that was going on. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, that's my whole point as a leader. I want you guys to have access to the truth because I'm going to be someone who I like to pride myself to be telling the truth. I know they said like the combat system is 100% and all that. Honestly,
No
I
way.
disagree. There's no way that's 100%. If that's 100%, this game is not going to be doing any well.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Um,
I'm just saying, but if that I've said this before, if the game
mhm.
really is 100% like Julius said, then he would have released a full battle sneak a long time ago.
Oh, I
So, yeah,
personally agree. Yeah, so
100%.
we're planning on revamping the entire thing. We're especially the Bakugan models. I was very discouraged when I saw them. So I have them working on making our own original models instead of just using those free ones that Julius had them
Wow.
using.
Wow. I was actually going to ask about that. That's a W right there.
Appreciate it.
W. Okay. Um this is kind of a obviously not expecting anything concrete, but do you have a release date in mind or an estimate?
As of right now, no. So just due to the fact that we're restarting everything, I kind of don't want to make a promise that I won't be able to keep. I can say that with release drops for alpha testing, that Patreon people who had subscribed during the time of Julius will have access to alpha testing. That'll be kind of more most so my way of trying to make up for their loss of money, providing it to Julius. So as of right now, just definitely see like alpha. I'm aiming for hopefully end of 2025 to maybe winter to early spring of 2026. It's just a lot. It really just kind of depends on the brawling system that we're going to be doing, whichever brawling system the majority prefers.
Mm-hmm.
That will kind
Yep.
of determine the speed of how development goes and how it's going to turn out. So just once I get information on that, then it will kind of get more focused on creating a timeline with having a better respected release date where we're not necessarily 100%, but we're pretty much close to that 100% mark where it's still playable. There may be a few bugs, but we'll have that community being able to go in and provide feedback. Just like how I kind of want the community to have some sense of control over what they want to see in the game. At the end of the day, it's the community that makes the game. So it should be them that kind of gets to create some of these decisions so that they can go in and have the best brawling experience.
W take. All right. Uh so regarding that, would you say I've seen some suggestions in the Discord, and I haven't even tried to see them. I just saw them because they were so popular. And it was, are you planning on incorporating a system where people that want to play Season 1 battle styles can do that, and other people that want to play Season 2 battle styles with, like, let's say, one Guardian, and then have multiple abilities, will be able to do that? Because obviously, Baku Project has strayed away from that. They're just completely focused on Season 1 battle style with Season 2 Guardians, and it's not really working out. So what are your thoughts? Are you gonna actually make it so season one people they got their own thing, season two people got their own thing? Are you gonna divide them, or are you gonna incorporate them together? What are you thinking?
So as of right now, like I said, whichever vote wins in the polls will kind of be the primary focus. That being said, though, the team and I were definitely open into implementing both brawling styles into the game. We already spoke about how the brawling styles would work if we were to implement both. It would kind of just be more of I click on a user and you'll have the option style for it to be we'll say S1 and S2 brawling style. So, if you want to do a season one brawling style with the three Bakugan, if you both agree to do the S1, you will both do S1. And if you wanted to do more of an S2, you will do an S2. That being said, though, with the brawling styles, it kind of just really depends on the access to ability cards and stuff like that. I know we spoke about with people having access and being able to start having custom Bakugan, and that probably will be coming through a paywall just because we will having a digital artist who will be creating the Bakugan itself from the art, and then we'll have a modeler, modeling. So you guys will just necessarily help front some of the costs, and the rest of the costs will be coming out from the funds itself, and then creating those things. So it is expensive to create a Bakugan. So we want to make sure that the people who are requesting to have a specific Bakugan that's only to them and them alone, that if they decide to play a season one version or a season two version, at least they have access to those Bakugans. And with the season two version, they'll probably have access to more abilities that would be tailored towards their Bakugan than you generally really would in season one, just due to compensating for the two extra Bakugan on your deck.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, okay. So you were talking about perks for the Patreons getting alpha tester. Now,
Yeah.
what are the perks going to be for the previous moderators or the new ones that you'll be getting? And what will influencers have access to?
So influencers will also have access into alpha and beta. So we want to make sure that our content creators, whether these are people who are doing YouTube, people who are doing TikTok and social media, that you guys are getting in there probably as quick as possible, just to kind of also, I really believe that your guys' feedback is also probably the more important, and your guys' comment sections are also really important too. We want to make sure we're trying to aim to we can't really please everyone, but we want to try and please just as most people as we can. If there's small little things that we can add that's going to create a better gameplay for a majority of people, we're going to go ahead and go out our way to do that. We have a team that's already being made that's really focused on being really in touch with the community itself. With the Patreon testers, so we wanted to give them the alpha testing, but we kind of already, right now, I have the senior administrator, he's working on creating a list on just more sort of things that we could probably provide for the people who subscribe to the Patreon and stuff like that. So as of right now, I can't really say I have a concrete answer just due to the fact that it's still currently being made.
Right. Okay. Uh, just off of me and Julius having previous beef out of
Yeah.
nothing. Am I still banned?
You were banned?
Well, I was removed my influencer privileges. Am I still considered an
Oh, I
influencer?
think I think I had yesterday. I'm pretty sure I myself actually ranked you as a content creator, so you should have those privileges of being able to post in the content chat.
Oh,
So we're currently working on our bot as of right now. So our content creators will have probably access to our bot, where when you guys were to post, you would just use that bot command, and that bot would be able to go ahead and post that link for you guys in that content chat. So we will be able to see who had posted what, and kind of more so that way. But I ranked you last night, if I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. I'll
okay.
definitely double check.
A question on top of that. What is considered an influencer, or what are the requirements to be an influencer?
As of right now, our requirements is generally for, in terms of YouTube or social media wise, it's that we just kind of ask for you guys to kind of have a consistent following base and a consistent community. So that way we can kind of reach out to you guys as much to say, hey, can you mind doing a video to go ahead and test out now? Let us know, feedback and stuff like that. So as of right now, we just, for the most part, obviously YouTube being with our primary focus, we just ask for at least 1,000 to 1,500 subscribers at that point in time. Not necessarily, we don't really care too much about how many views a video is specifically getting, because I know sometimes, I myself, I'm not on YouTube as much, so it's like kind of the views can always be inconsistent. You can have a really good video, it could be a video that people are not really interested in. So we just ask for more of a following base of at least 1,000 to 1,500.
Okay, so that's pretty solid. So 1,500 subs or 1,000 subs
Yeah.
requirement to get a influencer role. That seems pretty valid. You know, people could, as I've seen, people could literally get the influencer role off of making one video, and they're an influencer. That's not
Yeah.
really what an influencer is, in my opinion.
Mm.
I mean, you could
No, for
literally
sure.
make a shady TikTok flaming a game, and that's somehow making you an influencer. That's not how it works in my
Yeah, for
book.
sure. I know, yeah, for sure. For an influencer, you're definitely someone like it's really in the name of the role. When you call someone an influencer, it's like you're gonna have some heavy influence. You know what I mean? There should be pretty much. We do look for other things, not just the following base. We do look for consistency, as I stated before. So we want to make sure that there is consistency in your posts before we decide to allow you to become an influencer. And to become an influencer, I'd rather it be more so you're talking with the a head administrator
Hmm.
himself, to become an administrator. And like I said, we are creating more. He's working more on the logistical side of things of what requirements for certain roles are going to be. What are necessarily are we looking for in terms of whether it's for applications to become a staff member or to kind of more go through the content creative creation route. So there's more than what we just look for from just a following base, but just as of right now, like the following base is just kind of more so what the concrete thing is until he finishes up on what necessarily it is that he's looking for. I'm trying to put some more trust into my staff members because I know Julius was kind of pretty micro-controlling. I guess that was what he was hearing, that he was pretty micro-controlling, controlling pretty much everything. So I want to be able to kind of trust my staff team or the people who chose to be a part of the staff team. So then that way, it kind of takes a little bit of work off my shoulders because I'm pretty much working day in and day out, try to give you guys the best type of game possible.
Yep. And about that, how much time do you actually put into this game every day, on average?
Um, on average, I'm normally up by 7 and I'm in bed by at least 7 a.m. and I'm at least in bed by 3 a.m. So, obviously with sometimes in between, I have to go ahead and step out the house. So I would say consistently I'm putting at least a good 14 hours every day into the game.
14 hours every day.
Yeah,
And you
I
work
want to make sure.
alongside your scripter, right?
I work on so right now our scripter we're currently working on hiring process. So we're looking for a new dev. We have some developers that Julius had they were no longer interested in the project, which is completely fine. I don't even blame them. Who kind of just lost hope. So we're looking at replacing some of the developers inside, but yeah, that's more so focused on working on the bots, working on the revamping of the server, the revamping of the UI, how animations are going to be working, all of those type of things. So I'm in studio. If I'm not in studio, I'm either in Discord having meetings or we're having conversations all over on my phone type of thing. So pretty
Mhm.
much, I'm never really too far away from work for Bakublox.
Well, that's actually really nice. I mean, Julius didn't really have the chance to do that because he was a college student or whatever, which
Yeah.
really messes it up. But I'm gonna have to backtrack a little bit because I really want to know what you meant by you want influencers to actually test out features of the game. Now, what do you meant by that? Because I've never seen that before or heard of that before. You want an influencer to hop on, let's say when the alpha's out, right? You want us to hop on, play it, possibly record or whatever it is that you wanted us to do, and you want us to post that, or you want us to just give you feedback? What do you mean by that?
I want you guys to post it.
Oh, you want us to
There's
post it?
obviously, yeah, for sure. There's obviously people who definitely may have heard of it, or maybe people who haven't even heard of Bakublox. And posting it, I feel like is the best way for us to kind of get a more unbiased approach. Obviously, I'm not necessarily stating that people who are going to be in the server also are going to be biased, but they're already in the server because they want to play the game. There are going to be people who are in the influencers, maybe comment sections or DMs necessarily, who may have heard the game or maybe who haven't heard the game, who are going to be in there, who are going to also provide some great feedback. And as an influencer, my hope is that you guys are remaining, as unbiased and as truthful as possible. And your guys' feedback is definitely very important as an influencer. You guys are going to tell us to say, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What are you guys aiming to see? And, with the people who you guys have in your following, they're kind of going to also tell us the same thing. Do they agree? Do they disagree? Is there something that they like? Is there something that could also be something that could be, inputted into the game that's going to make it a whole lot better? I
Hmm.
like myself, like I said, I want to be as close to the community as possible. I also want to allow the community to have a very powerful voice. At the end of the day, you guys are the ones who can dictate whether a game becomes successful or not. So I want to make sure that, with influencers, that when you guys are posting your videos, whether good or bad, it lets me kind of have that creative feedback to say, okay, what am I doing well, or what do I need to work on, and what do I need to make sure is being worked on in order for that narrative to be changed, or if in order something needs to go ahead and fix it. That way, not only does it show to the community that we're listening and that we hear you, but it also shows also that we're having people who are coming in, and then it's not necessarily a biased approach where we only want to have good videos about us being posted. Obviously times are going to come where maybe someone doesn't like something that we're doing and they make a video about it. You know what I mean? I want to be
Hmm.
able to listen to that video. I want to listen to where you guys don't necessarily feel like you have to say something good or have to, kind of watch out in case you might get bad like Julius did to you. Like, what I mean? I want you to create your videos, whether good or bad, about Bakublox. And I respect those videos 100% because that's a video of you telling the truth, you sharing your truth and what you believe, is right and wrong. So that's definitely something I want kind of influencers to be doing here, creative gameplay.
100%. Everyone has a right to their opinion. Like if somebody wants to shit on your game, obviously they're allowed to do that. But
Yeah,
going
for
out of their
sure.
way to actually just disrupt peace and harass people, that's not what I consider an opinion. That's a movement. Now, what do you consider criticism?
Honestly, criticism, that's a great question. Honestly, I could really say when it comes to criticism, it's really just as long as it's constructive feedback. You know what I mean? If you're gonna criticize something, you should kind of have already a way, and an ability to go ahead and explain why and explain what would work better. That's what I would consider
Very
criticism. So
nice.
if they're
That's
like
nice.
not liking the brawling system, how would you change the brawling system? You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I want that feedback because, if the majority of the group is like, you know what, like we actually really like this and this is something that we really want, then I'm gonna make sure with my team is like, do you guys see this posting? Or if one of the people who are working on our team who's gonna be really checking with the community, kind of be really close hand in hand, it's gonna come to say, let's have a team meeting. This is something that that the community really wants. This is the feedback that they're giving. It's gaining a lot of attention.
for
How can
sure.
we, work with this? So that's probably my goal. But that's what I consider criticism.
Yeah, so if you see someone and they're making a video on your game and they're like, "Fuck me, these cards look like shit," and he doesn't
Mhm.
say why, you're not gonna actually take that and like, okay, they're shit.
I
What?
mean, I definitely hear them, like, and obviously, if someone says that they're shit, there probably would be more people who's gonna go ahead and be like, "Oh, I agree," or "I disagree." You know what I mean? When time someone criticizes, with especially in a more online public setting, there are gonna be people who are gonna go ahead and either go out the way to state that they agree, people who are gonna go out the way to defend it, say, "No, it looks pretty good." That being said, though, it's kind of hard to take criticism if there's not a follow up behind it. You know what I mean? You can tell me the cards look bad, but it's like, how would the cards look better?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, if I'm gonna tell you the battle system is slow, I'm gonna tell you, well, if we're gonna be taking this into accord by how many minutes a match takes and how much it takes to actually gain currency to buy new Bakugan to then boost that time, well, it takes 8 minutes on average per turn that you're trying to kill someone. Or not, okay, pause, not kill. I mean, defeat someone in a brawl, right? Like Baku Project, let's take that as an example, right? 5 minutes
Yeah.
per match to gain 400 HSP, and a Bakugan is worth minimum 1,900. Okay, so you're gonna have to do 4 battles if you want to get a Bakugan, or if you want to get a really good one, that could be like 5,000. There you go. That's gonna be way too much time spent in a game to get a single thing that you could use in the
Yeah.
future. Now, I want to know, how are you gonna balance that system? How much currency will someone who wins a battle get per actual like victory? How would you balance that?
That's great. So when it comes down to brawling, obviously the money system that kind of really when it kind of depends. So obviously there's not really a set number that can specific that can especially say how much you're going to earn and how much XP you're going to gain.
Yep.
That not only just because it's due to the brawling style at the end of the day. If you're doing a season one brawling style, it's going to change how much you're gaining because it went from one Bakugan, one Bakugan in season two or in a Bakugan trap that you can have to, having three Bakugans. So until the brawling style kind of really is set in place, then I could definitely like, shoot you a message and give you like an answer to that specific question. So then that way, you can have an answer whether you would want to post it. And I'd also put that answer out in public too of how HSP and XP and all that stuff would definitely work. So that way it's not necessarily hand feeding everyone like one brawl you can go ahead and buy like get like 10,000 HSP, like it probably won't be that. Our whole goal and our point is to make the game as PvP as possible. I know a large amount of
A
people have
few
requested
moments
during that
later.
Q&A that they did want an in-game kind of, they wanted like a story mode. So we're definitely going to try and implement kind of more so an in-game quest line so you can kind of earn a Bakugan from just kind of like a Leonidas did in the old games.
Yes.
So kind of something just like that we're gonna have also to offer where it'll be kind of like a different Bakugan for each attribute. So it
Based.
looks,
Yes.
yeah.
100%. Now, the problem with that though is you got to make sure that people don't want to sway. People that favor, let's say, Ventus aren't going to be swayed to play another attribute because, well, shit, the starting Bakugan looks way cooler on that attribute, and he's probably better. It's like, why would I play my favorite attribute? Let's say my favorite attribute is Darkus. They look cool. The Bakugan, he looks mediocre, and his abilities are worthless. Why would I play Darkus to nerf myself against other players? They're all going to pick the same attribute just to counter me. So at the end of the day, how are you going to work on that?
Yeah, so our priority focus is when we're creating these ability cards and for these specific Bakugan is balancing. We're gonna make sure where each attribute has equality towards it. I know when playing Baku Project, you could definitely feel the inequality from when you're brawling as a Pyrus to brawling as an Aquas.
Tell me
Aquas
about it.
didn't Aquas really didn't get the limelight that it kind of deserved. Well, Pyrus, in really two ability cards, they just gained, 300 to even possible like, 400 Gs. So it was you kind of felt that impossibility, and you would definitely see that influx of where more people are playing a certain attribute because an attribute was just kind of the meta at that kind of point. We don't want to make it where one attribute is a meta. We're gonna definitely make it to where each attribute is equal in its own right. Each attribute is good in its own right, and it's balanced where there's no heavy G power, sorry, farming off of like one ability card type of thing. So that also
Yep.
say that it kind of really depends again on the brawling style. Obviously, season one is a lot more turn based, where season two kind of does offer those double ability cards. And obviously, we're implementing a system. If season two, right, as I think as of right now, season two is taking the lead. I haven't checked yet of how that would also work. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So, will you collaborate with Bloxagon and Advanced Brawl?
I haven't honestly. I can't give you an answer right now. I haven't really thought of it as of right now. I think Bloxagon is stated to be heading into beta really soon. So right now, my priority focus is just trying to get alpha out and at least to kind of revamp everything to fix as much as possible. Yeah, but with Bloxagon, like, I'm definitely open. If they're open towards two, we can definitely discuss to see what could be for the steps taken forward, or if there's something that maybe we would want to do together as a community, for sure. But as of right now, my priority focus is just more so on the development and actually giving you guys content that you guys want to have. That's probably where my focus is at directly currently at the time.
Yep. Okay. Um. Right. What would you say is the goal for Bakublox this year?
I would say this year the goal is to give you guys honestly gameplay for sure. I want to give you guys an actual active gameplay. Whether this sneak would probably be like, whether it's a minute 30 sneak where you kind of get to see from ball form to standing to actual brawling to defeat and what that would kind of look like in the game. Also, as well as getting at least close, if not at least alpha testing out. You know, I have a lot of free time now because it's summer break and from college, so it's like I can really put more hours into the game, especially for this next couple of months that's going into it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of want you guys to kind of see, or if not, see, and if possible, honestly, experience some gameplay or kind of see more creators having the access to that gameplay, so you can kind of watch and see and hear their feedback, and kind of dictate whether or not this is something that you want to be a part of. Is there something that you guys want to see that's changed, or something that you guys want to see implemented into the game? Yeah.
I heard there was going to be a uh, a mechanic that lets you get custom Bakugan, where you could pay for
Yes.
custom Bakugan. Could you explain a little
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, for sure. So our whole goal at the point is to do something that hasn't really been done before. I'm all about taking risks, and if there's no reward if you don't really take a risk in things. That being said, though, from watching Bakugan, I could tell one thing that I liked, and I'm guessing a whole lot of people liked, just based off of what I was seeing from the feedback that I heard in that Q&A, is that a lot of people do like the idea of having a custom Bakugan. I feel like it does increase the brawling experience exponentially. You can always fight someone, people have the choice to get one, and people have the choice to choose not to get one. It's entirely up to you at that point. I know there's going to be people in this game who, after a while, you're going to memorize everyone's ability cards for that specific Bakugan, where the brawling experience goes from strategy to more so muscle memory and memorization, because you already know okay, you're brawling with the Prius. I already know, okay, I'm prepared for Prius to have a blue shield, or blue stealth, I'm sorry, or attribute changing to these two specific attributes.
Right.
But brawling against someone who has a Bakugan that you have never seen before, with a Bakugan that's only tailored towards them and them alone, an untradeable custom, where
Yeah, for
it
sure.
does increase the brawling experience, because now it really does put you to the test of Bakugan being a whole of obviously power, but also strategy and
Yep.
tactics. Now it kind of puts you to the test to say, how am I as a brawler? Are you quick to think on your feet when it comes to reaction time? Are you going to take this loss, or are you going to try and, overdo them because you need this type of win? So I feel like it does increase the brawling experience, especially when we're planning on hosting things like tourneys and all that stuff. I definitely feel like it will shoot that up a lot more, especially people who would watch the tourneys. I don't know about you guys. I know with me, it'll be really cool to watch a tourney where I'm seeing two people brawl with Bakugan that I've never seen before,
Oh,
and
100%.
watching these ability cards going off, and you're like, oh, this is definitely something fun to see. Rather than kind of seeing a tourney where you kind of seeing the same, maybe, Bakugan that you already know kind of going off on again, because, at one point, it's going to get to a point where it kind of gets already repetitive. And I want to remove that repetitiveness as much as I can, and kind of, I feel like there's a whole lot of potential when you start opening up to people having Bakugan of their own, and that's definitely something that I'm interested in doing.
But how would you go about? Let's say I bought a custom Bakugan, and I would like it to look a certain way. Let's say I want a Schlongmanoid, or a Serpenoid rather. I call it a Schlongmanoid, and I want a Schlongmanoid that has wings, right? Majestic golden wings or some rainbow wings or whatever the fuck, right? How would you go about making custom models for every single person who would go about getting a custom Bakugan?
So that's where it kind of comes tricky. And so, as of currently, I'll let you know that's currently right now in discussion and how we'd have that work, because we have a digital artist who would go ahead, and obviously online they'll be drawing of how Bakugan will look in their ball form and when they're standing. And from what they had requested and what they had pitched, would be more so that they would kind of have more of the creative design on how the Bakugan would look. So it would be more so you guys are paying for the Bakugan, and then necessarily just due to, because we don't want to create any Bakugan that kind of share very similar similarities. And there could be a group of people where it's like they want all like angel type of Bakugan, and over a while, especially depending on how well the game does, there will be some people who are going to be like, oh, you kind of copied my idea, or this looks very pretty much like mine. So they had pitched to say that they would kind of have more of the creative flow, or they can kind of pitch something that the people who are asking for a custom who obviously paid through that custom, they would kind of have you guys would have some say into what you guys want implemented, but you guys don't. Doesn't mean that we won't necessarily implement everything that you're asking. You know what I mean? We may put a couple things in that you pitched in, like we could do this, do that. But they had said that they would be more open to them having kind of more of the creative flow into how it would work. So it's kind of
Okay.
more so like I can give an
So
example and say like I would want a Bakugan that kind of operates like the Thing in Marvel Rivals, where armored and Subterra armored, kind of more so not necessarily how the design's supposed to look, but how you would kind of want them to work would probably be a better way to say it.
okay, so
Just so then
like
they have a more creative
yeah.
design flow from that. Yeah.
But what if I were to say something like, I would like a Bakugan that is very, it looks similar to Krakix. It's got that samurai style, and he's a powerhouse. And I want him to have abilities that can be more offensive than defensive. How would that work out?
Yeah, so if especially when it comes down to Bakugan that hasn't necessarily really that we haven't made in terms of custom, that definitely is more like you're more likely to get that approved than if it was something that has already been done. So if someone had said, "I want a Bakugan that's like Wilda, but not necessarily, but it works kind of differently in a sense of way," it's like, okay, we haven't done this before, so they can go ahead and do it. But if it's this is the third order that they're getting, and someone's saying they also want to back on someone like Wilda, then it's like, okay, it's becoming a bit repetitive now. We may take some features to say or they may specify to say what certain features are you looking for, and they might try to implement those features, but doesn't mean necessarily it's going to look close to like Wilda. It may look, it's going to look original, obviously, of course, but it may carry some features that was very pretty similar to Wilda, or like you can kind of tell it's like, okay, this is definitely maybe inspired by like a Wilda Bakugan.
How would like how what decides their base G power and how many abilities they can have, and would you balance the abilities? Because obviously, like I can't just request I want a Lumagrowl lookalike or a Schlongmanoid that's got 600 base G power. That would be crazy. Because if I could
Yeah.
get that, I would pay for it 100% just to just to beat everybody else. Because Schlongmanoid lore wise is the greatest Bakugan to exist, right? 900 G power, but that's not going to work in a game where PvP is an option. So
Yeah.
how are you balancing this?
So when it comes to balancing scale wise, we decide. So if you guys do choose to get a custom, you are most likely probably because you won't decide to go through that paywall. We kind of still just talking about what the minimal base G and the maximum base G would be in terms of starting off on a Bakugan. All Bakugan that you purchase will either be between the minimum and max starting base G. Not necessarily like you're starting out at 900 Gs, but they'll be like level one, so kind of between like the 300 G mark type of thing. Honestly, it's probably most likely just going to be like a randomized thing. We're not trying to create too much of a gap where it's like one person maybe started like project where one person can start at like 260 and another person start at like
Oh hell no,
330 or
hell
320.
no.
That's too much of a gap period. We want to try and make it pretty close as possible, but maybe the difference between a Bakugan is maybe like 30 Gs. Nothing necessarily too serious where it's like you need to put up 2 ability cards in order to catch up to someone who just put up 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
100%. That's stupid.
so we're still kind of trying to find out the general base number that's going to be working. We could claim to work, and we're still working on what we're gonna cap the G power at, because there are gonna be people, if we were to kind of not have a cap, who would just the next month they went from having a 300 base Bakugan to maybe 1,200 base G, and it's just at that point like GG's. So we want to create one where there's a cap on the Bakugan. There's a whole lot we want to implement into it, and a whole lot of it is definitely original ideas, or some of it is more so in maybe inspired from different things that we've saw, or different types of potential that the Bakugan can have that we can implement into our game system. Our whole goal in Bakublox really is to be different, create a new game style that hasn't been done before, at least in Bakugan games, at least that I know of, that hasn't really been done before or focused on,
Yep.
and kind of expanding on that.
So what about the ability cards? So obviously,
Oh, yeah.
like
With
what would the limit be? So let's say I want to buy like 4 ability cards for one fucking Bakugan, right? And we're going with the season 1 battling style. That's not gonna work, is it?
No. So how we kind of have ability cards working. So when it comes to custom ability cards, you guys don't really have a control on what ability cards you want them to do type of thing. That's when it's kind of more left up to us because we're going to be the ones who are really prioritizing the balancing of, each Bakugan will have the kind of ability to kind of do offense, defense, and a bit of support slash utility wise. So
Oh,
you'll
right.
kind of
So
get to
that's
see.
why. Yeah, yeah. So that's why you want us to
Mhm.
pitch you what we kind of want. So when I said I want
Yeah.
crack kicks to be offensive instead of focusing on the defensive abilities he's got, you guys are focusing on balancing the offense that he'll get. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
it'll be
yeah,
more of a
okay.
balancing wise on our part. So then
Okay.
that way, when you guys get your Bakugan, by the time you guys hit your Bakugan is balanced. You know what I mean? It wouldn't come to a point where we need to maybe buff your stats or decrease your stats because obviously, when your Bakugan's in thing, we'll put it into testing. We'll brawl with your Bakugan to see, okay, does this need to be changed? Does this need to be fixed? How does this work? And
Okay, good.
then
Because I was about to say, like, what if you guys decide what the abilities are going to be and they're terrible when I get them?
yeah,
It's like, how are
yeah.
you going to fix that? Like, if I want if I expect something offensive that could be like a Hammer Gorham's ability, which is minus 50 to the opponent, plus 150 to you, and you guys decide to give him plus 50 to you and minus 20 to the opponent, what in the hell was going on there? There's no point. I'll just get Fire
No
Tornado
point.
instead.
So yeah, so obviously, and when it comes to custom Bakugan, that being like customs, it comes down again to the brawling style. Really, in season one, I think they mainly had two or three character, ability cards that was just tailored towards them.
Yep.
Whereas in season two, obviously they gained a lot more, which is what I've also made sure to reiterate in the polls that if you do season two route you gain more access to ability cards than you would in a season one route. Because if you were to do a season one route, nothing's really stopping you from just creating a deck, just of maybe say six, or I'm just shooting a number, but it could be like maybe like six or eight ability cards for that specific Bakugan of your own. And then, you could really just one shot, one kill everyone and just playing on your own Bakugan. So
Yeah.
depending on the plays, the brawling style of the game will determine how many ability cards your guardian Bakugan will have.
Right. So how is evolutions going to be implemented into the game, and how would they work for custom Bakugan? Like, if we're talking obviously dual Hydronoid, Alpha Hydronoid, are they just going to be in the game? Do you have to do a certain process? Do you have to do raids? Like, what? How are you going to get evolutions?
So all Bakugan in the game, whether you buy them at the shop, or you got them given to you from did the custom one, they're all gonna be base. So there will be no evolution Bakugan that you can go ahead and buy. Now Drago currently is another topic that we're talking about right now because he's had multiple evolutions. So we're kind of deciding to see how
Stupid
we're
plot
gonna
armor.
work with. Yeah, so we're trying to see how we're gonna. Drago really is just like the big kind of scratch at the back of the head right now because it's how are we gonna implement controlled evolutions when you had someone really just Drago kind of evolving 3 to 4 times every season. But that being
Yeah.
said, for people who are like Hydronoid, so what we did is that we did end up doing research, and what we did come to find out, at least in I can't really say this information for season one. I'm not entirely sure, but at least for season two, is that in season two there were actually Bakugan technically evolved twice. So an example would have been like Mira's partner Bakugan Wilda, actually was Thunder Wilda, but there was actually a base form. So when we meet Mira and we meet um, Ace and when we meet Baron, is that their Bakugan had already evolved. So we come to realize that there's three evolutions, which is why people like Hydronoid and Drago were able to do so in season one. Alpha Hydronoid being Hydronoid's final form, but he went from Hydronoid to Dual to Alpha. Same way there was Wilda, Thunder Wilda, and Magma Wilda. In season two, we met Thunder Wilda, who had already evolved from the Wilda form and then became Magma Wilda, which was their last evolution. So we're working on finding a way to add that. We're more so talking about it, but it's probably something that we might allow the community to decide whether you guys want one evolution where it's just kind of going from like Wilda to Thunder Wilda, or did you guys want the two to go from like Hydronoid, Dual Hydronoid, and Alpha Hydronoid? How evolutions would work though in terms of gameplay wise, it probably will be based off of a level. So we're talking about having like an XP system on your Bakugan, where your Bakugan would be like, oh, you have a level 1 Bakugan or maybe level 7 something, which will obviously each level you would gain G power, kind of just like how Baku Project did. We were really that's where we're pulling that idea from. We really did like that idea, how your G power is continuously gaining as you level up.
Yeah.
Um, that being said, so with evolutions, you'll probably be locked behind a level. So, but the XP that you gain is not going to be enough. Where it's like I'm level 1, and then I did one brawl, and now I'm level 5, type of thing. Where it's like Pokemon, where you can literally like farm boost up your Pokemon, and have it become like level 100 within like 2 hours.
Obviously.
That won't be the case here. There'll be certain things where it's like it'll be behind a level wall. Sometimes we may do is like how many brawls specifically. Also, once it has to be the specific level and has to have had this many specific brawls in order for it to evolve into this.
But
We're
what
actually
if you
creating a
don't want to
website.
evolve it? Can you just decide
Yes,
not to?
yes, yeah. So what we're doing is that we're adding items. So it was actually a great question that someone had put in the QA and had also DM'd me because I had missed their question. I
Damn, we getting
apologize to them.
thunderstones and shit.
Yeah, so kind of not necessarily a Thunderstone, but it was an item, something similar towards kind of like an Everstone from Pokemon, where it's like you don't want to evolve them,
No,
or it's
no,
like you
no.
maybe want to keep them to like some people want to evolve and keep them at their second base, because how we're having those work is that when you evolve your Bakugan in a sense of way, in like a Pokemon aspect, kind of forgets the abilities of their previous form, right? Maybe some of them change into something different, or but it kind of they're not going to be really using their old abilities because they have newer ones, right? So you will kind of see in your Bakugan deck that your Bakugan, when you evolve your Bakugan, probably the first thing you're going to want to do is really open up your deck, because you now have the ability cards that used to be old are now have now changed into something different. So you'll kind of see, the evolution. You not only will you see it like physically from the Bakugan, but you also feel it from the ability cards that you're now using, because the ability cards are no longer the same from before. When
Mm.
purchasing ability cards, we've kind of decided to do it in terms of a pack wise. That way, it does increase of looking. There's going to be people who are store sniping. People who maybe buy an ability card that you may
Oh,
need,
oh,
so we kind of want to do and implement a pack wise where you can buy ability cards in a pack of 5 or in a pack of 10. And that's something that people were definitely interested in doing. That way it creates more longevity into the game. And for certain Bakugan, it's not necessarily, obviously it increases more of that player where players may have a market. If players have a ability card that you may have, kind of just like we saw in season 4 of Bakugan, where you have different characters who had ability cards, Bakugan, that they were going ahead out there and selling, for HSP. So we kind of want to create as a game that's more immersive, as immersive as possible, built around the players as possible, where you guys have necessarily control of almost anything that we can let you guys have control of.
yep. I mean, I'm just saying your game's getting taken down. That's just me though. But anyway, copyrighting that, Nintendo. But okay. Them Everstones
Obviously, it
ain't gonna
won't
do
be.
you justice, bro.
Obviously, it won't be like an Everstone. It'll be a whole different thing that's created to us. We have an amazing creative team. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
you'll
hope.
definitely.
I hope.
Yeah.
All right, that's perfect. All right. So which Bakugan season do you like the most, and which would you rather incorporate into Bakublox? Me personally, I would like season 2 because I'm tired of seeing the games with season 1. Now I've played Baku Project a while. Bloxugan, that's season 1 as well. And I would just want to see how a season 2 game would go. Now that's just my preference, but I would mostly prefer both seasons. But go ahead. What
No,
is
for
yours?
sure. Honestly, like doing the both seasons is probably like the best route. It keeps everyone happy, but that being said, not everyone's going to be happy. And my favorite, honestly, if I'm being truly honest, is definitely season 2. I think season 2, showed us a different brawling style than compared to season 1. And I don't know, for myself, season 1 just kind of felt like a dice roll at the same time too, because you're not really waiting to watch Saurus go up against a Juggernaut. You really just want to see, Preyas go up against a Tigrera type of thing. You know what I mean? So it was like at least every brawl in season two felt like the main event. So
Yeah, it's kind of
I
like
also
chess.
liked,
Yeah.
yeah, in the sense of way, and I also really liked the Bakugan. I would say in season two, season one is also really good. I feel like season one walked, so season two could definitely run. But that being said, like season two just was more memorable. Also, in terms of like reason why, it's a reason why I had requested also the ability to do season two. Obviously, I'm a lover of season two, but I wanted to have an unbiased approach when coming to the game because at the end of the day, I want to do what the community, like the majority of the community, wants to do. But I feel like season two offers a brawling style that hasn't been done. I haven't seen any game. I could be completely wrong that has done a season two brawling style. Excuse me. So, I feel like that would make, Bakublox unique. I know Bloxugon's already doing a season one style. I know, Baku Project's already done a season one style. We've had the video game on the DS or the Wii that's done a season one brawling style. So I feel like this is something that makes Bakublox stand out, having that possibility, of doing season two and, the brawling system and all that.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the smartest play if you want to at least get some traction or stand out. Because currently you got
Mhm.
some negative PR going on. So, I mean,
Yeah.
my channel might be responsible for that. I don't know. I'm just saying what I see. All right. Okay. So, I heard a rumor that you did not plan to incorporate different attributed decks, so people can't use, let's say, Aquos Preus, a Ventosaurus, or a Schlongmanoid that's got two attributes. So what's the reason for this?
So those attributed decks, personally, just from Baku Project and what I've heard also too from my community, is that a lot of people, especially when you're doing things like tournaments and stuff like that, um, we kind of more so want people to brawl with a specific attribute. And it's nothing like I don't want to be that type of person where it's like you're forced to do something, but it does kind of decrease the gaming experience when someone's using different decks and different attributes. 'Cause obviously, they can create a build, obviously, which is really good. And like that creativity is like something that I definitely would want to see for sure, but it creates an inconsistency with the brawling experience. I'll tell you, me personally, I've had negative brawling experiences going up against people using different things because you may be prepared. It's like, okay, they have a Pyrus, so you may be, having just to keep up with the Pyrus brawler, and then next thing they have a Dive Mirage. I mean, definitely it's something where it's like, as of right now, it's not like I'm saying no. I'm just saying it's not going to be uh current, like as of current. Maybe later on, like I'm allowing brawlers to go ahead, and you can definitely. It's like if you're a Chaos brawler and you want to brawl Subterra, you can definitely go ahead and obtain Subterra Bakugan and brawl with the Subterra Bakugan. But just the mixing and the matching, especially when it comes down to things like triple node and etc. And that's again only if a season one uh playstyle works out. Then it's kind of more so okay because season one, for at least myself, how I see it, was had pretty strict rules. It was pretty like a linear line of what you can do and cannot do type of thing. Whereas obviously season two had a lot more flexibility and a lot more potential of what you can and cannot do. Um, I think we saw like I don't think in I could be mistaken, but in terms of like Bakugan show wise, I think we've only seen people switch the attribute of the Bakugan that they're brawling, but not necessarily like run a positive delta or a negative delta build. You know what I mean? Where they're now gaining 200 G's, specific type of thing for just one person. Brawling out a whole different thing.
Mm.
And especially with season one styles is definitely, I would say, it's a lot more slower than it is in a season two route. Season one's a whole lot of setup before a brawl starts. You're kind of trying to set up based off of what the ability cards that you have and what you can execute. Where so in season two is a lot more off of the moment the Bakugan land on the gate card, the brawl has commenced. So as of right now, it's just more so just not it's not really a popular opinion within the community to allow people to mix and match their teams. It also wasn't a popular opinion of mine too, but I did want to allow people to see what they wanted to see, and like a lot of them did show that they weren't interested in really having access, not necessarily access, but mix and matching the teams, more so just kind of keep it consistent. If you're gonna brawl Subterra, your team's gonna you're gonna brawl with the Subterra team, not necessarily Subterra and then a Pyrus, and then is gonna start creating metas also, and that's going to just ruin the gaming experience. I'm more so just focused on the brawling in the gaming experience more so, and I don't want to do anything or say anything that may impact that. So it's like, if it's the games come out or alphas come out and these are things that maybe people have changed their mind and they're like, what, we kind of want to have access to this, or again, it's just really more focused on the brawling style.
How will attribute changers work in the game, as well as how will custom Bakugan, will they be allowed to have 2 attributes, the same as
So
Angelo and Diablo?
So with attribute changing, for when it comes down to custom wise, we will attribute depending. So what the more of the issue was is what some people, it's kind of split. So one group of people is going to kind of be discouraged, or may feel a bit neglected. So there's a group of people who are saying that Aqua's Bakugan were the only Bakugan that had the ability to change attributes, so it should be them. And other groups of people are saying that we should allow all attribute changer Bakugans, people who are like a Preus, an Elfin, or Elico. If it's a Pyrus Elico, that he should have the ability, because it's the character, not necessarily the attribute, that allows him to change the Bakugan. So it's a lot. That point definitely gets a lot more difficult to kind of do. One group of people are not gonna like the decision that kind of comes down to be made. That might be, which is why I had requested in that poll to see, do you guys want us to lock attributes in terms of a way where it's like only like a Pyrus, like if it's an elephant, it would have to be like a Aqua's ability, because I could be mistaken, and some people had corrected me to say that during that Q&A, that when I had said that I'm pretty sure they were only Aquas, they were like, no, there were other attributed characters, attributed variants of, I think they said, of a Preus that existed already, and then they also had the ability to attribute swap. So attributes was a very touchy subject. I'm not sure. I didn't really read too much into it. I was just, there's so much happening that day where it's like, obviously when I have free times, I try to go ahead and research and try to implement some good ideas. But when it comes, I can tell you how attributes would work, though. I can't really necessarily tell you if there's going to be locked or unlocked specifically to Aquas. We don't have a straight answer as of currently. Well, but how attribute changing Bakugan would work would be more so each time you throw the Bakugan,
yeah,
the Bakugan will get thrown in their base form, and they'll always be thrown in their natural attribute that they were acquired in. So if you bought Aqua's Elfin, she will always spawn in as an Aqua's Elfin.
Okay.
That being said, we've relying where a Bakugan can change its attribute once per brawl. I mean, I could be mistaken, but I haven't seen, in terms of season 1 and season 2, I haven't seen where they're continuously changing their attribute on the same gate card, or am I making run on each, especially in season 1, I think it was a different gate card that Pearson, when he was on a different gate card, he moved to a different gate card. He could switch his attribute. But, if you're on that same gate card, I know with season 2 it was more so they only changed their attribute, I think once or twice, I can't remember. But it'll be more so they'll always spawn in their natural attribute. And then you guys would have the ability, if it's an attribute changing Bakugan, it'll kind of be more so of a passive, whereas like they don't need to necessarily change, where you could tell them what attribute they need to change it to. So you would have your natural base, and then you will have your 2 other, whether it's a Ventus and a Darkest for Elfin, or a Subterra and Chaos for like an Elico. When it comes down to customs, you guys kind of have more of that creative role. Again, it really depends on the attributes. That's why when it comes down to customs, it gets a bit more tedious, because it's like most people are going to want an attribute changing Bakugan, because you can people may see them as meta, or people may see that, I can gain from, whether it's like a Chaos reactor, switch my Bakugan to a Chaos, and also gain from that from that gate card. So,
but wait. So a little thing on that, right? Obviously, there has been Bakugan that have an attribute change, like Brontes, where they had a Dark Scythe, which lets them use Darkest abilities. What is stopping, let's say, the the custom that I wanted, which was the Krakix lookalike. Let's say I wanted him to have an ability called the Godslaying Sword, which is a Chaos sword or something like that, which lets him use Chaos abilities. What would stop that? I mean, you don't
So
necessarily
that's
have to
the
let them
thing.
change attributes.
Yeah, so there's nothing really stopping that. So it kind of really comes down to like Chaos and Darkest are kind of like yin and yang, you know what I mean? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like we've seen Brontes, we've seen Nemesis, we've seen in season 3 Contest Year. There's Bakugan where Chaos who have the ability to use Darkest, and I know, Darkest who also have the ability to use like a Chaos ability without necessarily them switching to that attribute.
Well, Nemesis has switched to
Um
Darkus.
Nemesis, yeah, Nemesis actually did switch to Darkest, yeah.
He has the
But
ability to attribute change. Yeah.
yeah, but we've seen more so. I think with people, what the whole discussion is that there's not a lot of Bakugan that are outside of Aquas that could switch. Mainly, it's just what we've seen was just Chaos, Darkest, and Aquas. Those that could kind of like Chaos and Darkest are kind of hand in hand with each other. Like they're able to kind of blend in and use each other's abilities or even swap between the two. Aquas, they've been the ones who primarily had shown that specific attribute had the ability to swap attributes. So a lot of people's concerns is like they have an attribute changing back. And let's say an example is I decide to go ahead, I get a custom, and then it's like, okay, I'm a Pyrus, I'm a Pyrus brawler. So now I have a Pyrus Bakugan, and then it's now an attribute changing Bakugan that's a Pyrus custom. I'm going to make you go ahead and do Darkest and let's say Ventus abilities too. That's more so when it becomes, it's like, okay, now, it may, to other people, it may come off as unfair because it's like, it's only a certain attribute had the ability to do so. Only certain attributes had the ability to do so. Whereas like, we haven't seen a Pirates Bakugan, at least in the series, ever have the ability to change its attributes. So it's like now, obviously, it does create open potential, but it also can create problems. So
one Hundred
right
percent.
now, we're trying to find a way where it like that works. Obviously, like when it comes down to attribute changing Bakugan and which Bakugan can change attributes, someone you can't make everyone happy. So there's going to be a group of people who are not going to be happy with the decision that we kind of finalized too. But when it comes down to customs, I can't say for customs, it's going to be more so of a spin. Like we'll give you the link to spin the wheel. I mean, you spin the wheel, we would probably make it more like it's like a 1 in 5 chance that you have, to acquire a attribute changing again, and that depends on our
Bro,
decisions. We're going to allow it to kind of be um, based off of the certain attribute, or if it's going to be we're going to let attribute changing be open and acquirable by anyone.
all I'm
It's
saying
just my
is if I spin that wheel and if I have a fucking Ventus and I get Subterra, I'm killing myself. That's just what I'm saying. Because I do not want to have that combo. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the
yeah,
day, you can't really say attribute changing is limited to one attribute. Now, the reason being, we never got a statement from the creators of Bakugan. That's how it is.
exactly,
And we've seen other attributes attribute change and use abilities of other attributes. So you can't really say
exactly.
that 100%. And you have no proof that they are limited to a certain attribute. That could just be how they wrote the anime just to be like,
Exactly.
we want to give Aqua some love because they suck. You don't know that. You
Hmm.
know anything. So it's just
Exactly.
yapping.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. So it's just and the decision that it's going to come down to, like a group of people. You can't make everyone happy at the end of the day. A group of people are not going to like the decision that's going to be made. We've made peace with that already. So it's kind of more so we're just deciding on what's going to work best to provide the most gameplay, and it's going to allow potential. And honestly, I could say right now it's probably leaning towards um different attributes being able to attribute change. But that being said, if that does happen, then it's like attribute changing Bakugan. It's not going to kind of be like, oh, it's a rare thing, but it's just going to be, if you were to get a custom, it's going to be like, harder to acquire. It'd be better, like, to acquire attribute changing, probably be like, okay, I might go ahead and get like a Pyrus. And again, depending on the gameplay wise. Whether it's brawling system being Gen 1, whether it's Season 1 or Season 2, sorry, for some people it might be easier for them to acquire to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do a elfin, at least a pirate's elfin can change into the attributes that I need, rather than me going ahead and trying to get a custom, with that chance that my custom may not even get like the skill to change its attributes or use attributes of use a different attributes ability.
Just buy a new one. Simple. Just keep
Yeah.
rolling the wheel until you get what you want. It's a money pyramid. It's so stupid. No, I'm playing. But yeah, I really like what you're doing with the changing here, because I said this in the early stages of Backer Project, and that is attribute changers are so bad, and they ruin how most people play the game due to the fact that they change without you even wanting to change. You should let them throw and like have a prompt that says, "Do you want to change?" As a chain, do you want to change? No, I don't. Not yet. And then that's how you should make your plays, because the amount of times, the amount of rage clips that I have of throwing a Preus, Elico, or an Elfin, and it changes to an attribute that I absolutely did not need in that situation, and I've almost broken my PC, is immeasurable. It's stupid, and it shouldn't work that way. That's not how it was in the anime. I mean,
No,
I'm
it'll
just
be a
saying.
no, definitely it'll be a passive thing where it's like whenever you want your Bakugan to change the attribute, you'd really just click on the Bakugan and it would show the attributes that they can change to, and then you just click on that attribute, and then from the moment you click on it, your Bakugan will switch to that attribute. If it's like a chain reaction thing, where it's like, okay, you're going to use this Aqua's ability, and then you're going to change it to Pyrus, and then use this Pyrus thing.
Yeah, that's nice. That's beautiful. Um, okay, okay. So I just had a question I really wanted to ask. Oh my god, it was on my tongue. Oh no, 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 dude. Damn it. Oh, bro. Okay. Well, right. So we just talked about, yep, we just talked about attribute changing, right? And I want to know, are you going to make this game anime accurate, as true as it possibly can be to the anime, or are you going to be making it more a balanced take?
That's a great. So that's definitely a trick question, and that's a really good question. With the anime, that's when it comes down to if I were to make it as neck and neck with the anime as possible. It does add some loopholes that we would have to kind of fill in terms of sometimes in the show, there could be a Bakugan with a higher G power that lands a hit on the Bakugan, but the Bakugan, did not fall. They're still standing. You know what I mean? If we were to keep it true to the anime, where it's like they have like a
Drago.
ability. Yeah, yeah, like Drago can be down 1,000 Gs and he's still standing type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's like going it with the anime, like it definitely may provide it definitely would make it a lot more easier because we have already have examples of how it's supposed to work. But that being said, though, there are some like potholes in the anime where they never explained why they had that ability, like why Draco had the ability to still remain standing, with a gap over 500 Gs, and we only saw Draco taken from Dan, I think like once, and that was it. But we've never seen like Drago honestly should have lost like a lot of times, but somehow he won because he just wouldn't go down. Whereas if we were to do a balanced route, balance is like it keeps everyone more so in line where not all attributes, overpower another. It's more based built off of the brawler and their skill, honestly, at that point. If we were to be balanced that wise, it's more built off of skill as you as a brawler, and I guess really the Bakugan that you're brawling with and the abilities that you use and that you pull at that time. So yeah, that right there is kind of hard. I can't say that we've spoke about that because honestly, we haven't really touched on that specifically just of yet right now.
I would say that
So
would be
I
a
could,
community vote thing. That is,
yeah,
it's
that
kind of hard because obviously people want it to be anime accurate, even though Darkus is technically going to be an overpowering attribute. Same with Pyrus, and
exactly.
Aquos is going to be terrible. But
Mhm.
it is what it is, right? It's anime accurate. That's what Back Project did, and that's what people wanted. And yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's the best way. I mean, if you make it all balanced, sure, you could say skill is going to be a factor, but I mean, you're gonna have to do a lot of work with, especially Aquos. That's gonna
yeah.
take
Oh
a while.
no, Aquas for sure. Like I know, with the senior admin, he's an Aquas brawler, so I always have him in my ear because from Backer Project, he's like if you make Aquas, but we're gonna have some problems. And I hear the cries, yeah, because I tried Aquas too. Because I at first I was like I didn't believe him. I was like, no, you could do this for Aquas, you could do this. So then I had made a whole Aquas thing, and yeah, it was really disappointing. So no, Aquas definitely you'll see a whole way better gameplay for Aquas, that's for sure. For Aquas Brawlers, especially after seeing what Bakublox had not Bakublox, oh my goodness, but Backer Project had done with Aquas. you're going to see what Bakublox does for Aquas, and Aquas is definitely going to feel equal towards all the other attributes.
If I were to give my 2 cents, I think the greatest course of action would be to make it anime accurate, but provide supporting cards or cards that could lift certain attributes up, like they did in Baku Project for Subterra. Because Subterra was the worst attribute from the start until the final update, where people started falling off the game, and now they're reigning like near the top because they got a lot of support with Gatekeeper and stuff like that. That was really good cards, and they got their own gimmick from that. Which I think if you guys did something similar, the game would at least be playable, and it wouldn't be.
Oh yeah,
Now it's not like on Backer Project. Now they're not concerned about what attribute people are using, and now it's just like, oh shit, he's got 600 G power Bakugan. That's the biggest problem now. It's like, who cares about the attribute, right? I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I don't know. But
No, it really just comes down to, at the end of the day, it really just comes down to the brawling system. Like once we know what brawling system the majority of the community has voted for, and which brawling system is the one that we're going to be leading forward with, that kind of opens the door for us asking all those extra possible questions that needs to be asked for us while we're working in studio, so that we kind of know what to do, what not to do, what the people want and what they don't want to see, type of thing. Because
right.
I know with Aquas, they're saying, to be anime accurate, and like, and I think it's like in season one, like Aquas was not really, being honest, they weren't really like, had their time to shine necessarily in season one. I think the only thing that made Aquas like so cool was, think, when they had introduced Preyas with his ability to swap attributes. But we see in season two where Aquas actually, does a whole lot more, and so it really just comes down to like the specific brawling style and the system that we choose. If it's a season two system, I would definitely say, it provides a lot more opportunity for um like Aquas, and like, those attributes that don't really kind of get that limelight for them to really shine. With the season one, it kind of like, season one already has like those set gate cards that are already in place. So that kind of gate cards and ability cards that are already in place of that specific attribute, where it's like I can see where people's issues lie on, for sure. So yeah, once for sure we have a um a brawling system that's been voted on, then in the coming of days, you'll see a huge amounts of polls just kind of going through, trying to hear back from the community. And then, obviously, while those polls are going on, once the polls close, that's the moment we begin executing that into studio.
You know what? Fuck, bro. I should have been streaming. That's what I should have been doing. This is gonna be a long video, but luckily this is the last question, or last couple of questions I have.
Mhm.
Do you have anything you want to say to the people that turned away from the game due to Julius's negligence and retardness? And
Yeah.
is there anything you want to say to your loyal fan base that you currently have on your own Discord server, and to those in Bloxugon that felt betrayed due to Julius? Is there anything you want to say to those people and those open-minded
To
people on my channel, of course?
Yeah, for sure. To the ones who are still in the Bakublox server, my first and foremost thing is, first and foremost, I'm sorry. I apologize, because due to the actions of the previous owner, you guys, obviously are still not having hope for this game. Like, I apologize at the fact that, he left you guys kind of high and dry, and left you guys with, a sense of mistrust and disbelief. But I also want to thank you guys for still staying and being there, still being here today. It does mean a lot to have, to coming in and having a community that's still standing strong, a community that's still wants and have hopes for the specific game. And it does mean a lot. It really shows, it's really what kind of motivates me into doing this type of project, having such a strong community, for sure. So I do want to apologize for them, for the Julius, and thank them for still staying. To the ones who had left, I I'll say I don't blame you guys. I don't blame you guys for leaving after how many times you've been lied to, and you had probably had your time wasted, or maybe your money wasted on this project, where you didn't see the fruits of your labor and the fruits of your contribution. For those guys, I am sorry. That being said, for those guys, I ask that you guys do give me a chance. Bakublox is on a whole clean slate. We're revamping everything, so anything of Julius's necessary that he really touched will you guys will not see. You will see more so the influence in the of the community, the influence of myself also being a part of this community with high hopes and high dreams for this game to succeed also. And to the people watching who may not know Bakublox and who are maybe interested in the Bakugan game, you guys are more than welcome to join. We treat everyone here as family. Yeah, we may have our, problems coming along here in the road, but what is family without a couple of arguments? But you guys are more than welcome to be a part of the team, to be a part of the community. Your guys' voice matters, and we are very in touch. I like to believe that we're going to be very in touch with our community. I want to be very in touch with you guys, where you guys have an easy access approach to go ahead and talk to me, whether it's I'm hosting Q&A stage, or I'll be also in the chat where you guys can ask your questions. And if there's questions that I can answer, I can for sure give you ahead and give them to you. So yeah, that's probably what I would say.
I don't think you could do a worse job at communication than Bakudev has done. So I think you're good on that route. Okay. Right. But how often will you be doing these Q&As?
My Q&As are I at least want to be doing them at least twice a month, at least like once every 2 weeks, just to kind of go on cooldown. People can go ahead and write their questions. Also, just due to because like I can't say weekly just because of how busy my schedule has been, whether I'm in devs or I'm messaging devs, having meetings and all that type of stuff. So I would definitely I'm trying to aim for at least twice a month. I would be doing Q&As, really in touch with you guys, try to, take a break from everything and talk to you guys. What do you guys want to see? Kind of get to more of those kind of get to know me's, and you kind of get to see me, as an owner come down and talk to, not necessarily come down like in a negative way, but like, take time off to kind of communicate with the community, what the community wants to see and everything. Because, I won't always be in chat. So I will miss some people's ideas and feedbacks type of thing. So at least when times of those Q&As come, you guys can really call me out on the spot type of thing and, hear what I have to say. Not necessarily because sometimes, translation can get lost. I might say something and then
Yeah.
my senior admin says something, but it's not exactly what I said, and it causes some confusion. So you kind of get to hear it from the owner's mouth type of thing. And what I say is something that I plan on implementing, or something that's already being implemented, or something that as of right now we're not focusing on. So I would definitely say every month, at least twice a month, I want to do Q&As.
What would you say is the best way to support you currently and support the project?
In terms of support, honestly, I would really just say being there, provide feedback. Polls, polls are going to be, especially once the brawling system polls close. I think they close today or tomorrow. I could be wrong. Really, it's really just being there. Showing up matters. I'm huge on showing up. I'm huge on communication. If you guys have any issues or any problems, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to the staff. I know I don't always, respond. I don't have time to respond, but I do read all my messages. I do read them. And if it requires me to have a personal response to you, then I go out my way to reach out to you. But if it's more something that's like, what, it could kind of be a service announcement, I will announce that myself also, or I'll have an admin team, be like, okay, I need you to talk about this specific thing. Right now, I would definitely say I know with Patreon and all that stuff, that's a very touchy subject, especially with the previous owner. So it's my mole. I would just say just watch. Honestly, just watch. Just watch how Bakublox grows. Watch the stuff that I'm trying to go ahead and implement into it and show you guys. And then if you guys want to go out your way to go ahead and contribute, that's something that I'm not asking. I don't want to say I'm forcing you guys to do. It's more, no, am I asking you guys to do? That'll be something of your own free will that you choose to do. You know what I mean? That being said, I know the history of Bakublox. I know Bakublox has a tarnished name, and all I ask is that you guys just really just give me a chance to change that perspective of what Bakublox is, what Bakublox means to you. Give it a second chance or a third chance. Give me a chance more necessarily as the leader and leading this project, and yeah, probably that's what I'd say.
Were you aware of the doxing situation that happened?
Not to my knowledge, no. There's a lot of situations that I wasn't really aware of what, like I didn't even know that you were banned until you had stated it today that they had Julius had removed you. So there's a lot of situations that I'm still finding out today, the previous situations that had happened. I just like to say, since those previous situations has happened, I'd like to say, what's in the past is in the past. Everyone who's been banned or been muted or removed or whatever, I've unbanned everyone. I've gone on my way to do that because it's a whole clean slate, new owner. Some of these people who I've never even communicated with ever in my life, I feel like it wouldn't be fair for them to remain banned just due to a old owner's personal issue with them. Maybe they had an issue with Julius that Juice didn't want to deal with and he banned, or maybe there was a problem with the group that they had an issue with and there's a reason why. But I'd like to say we're on a whole clean slate.
All right. Yeah,
everything
that's
else,
nice. All right. Well, with that, Abyssa, you better hop your ass back into Bakublox and get your your rewards that are waiting for you, alpha tester and all that, and get your friends back in here that supported the project and got scammed, because they finally getting their stuff now. Well, I believe we got most of the things that I was curious about, and a lot of things that needed to be pointed out. That's awesome. So I'm looking forward to see how this game goes. Unless you got anything else you want to say, I'm happy with what we got today.
No, thank you so much for reaching out. I definitely appreciate it, and hopefully soon we can do a couple more. I'm very interested.
Oh, you want to do more?
I mean, obviously not like every month, but maybe kind of more so like what's been going on. I'm definitely interested in being reached out to, and kind of doing more, like I said, being in touch with the community is something I like to pride myself in communication. So I'm always open to more communication.
All right, we'll do this once a year. I'm playing. All right, well, it's been awesome. I want you to go to my channel, subscribe, and make sure you take a look at that, because this video is going to be big and it's long. Sure. Oh God. Yeah, W editing, bro. All right. Yeah, you have a good one, man. Thank you so much for the interview.
Man.
All right, that was the interview with Psych, the new owner of Bakublox. If you think he's a good guy, make sure to check him out, dude. It's nice to see that we have an owner that's going in the right direction. He's gonna remake the entire game, make his own models. Support the guy. Hop into Discord. Hopefully the game can get revived and get its reputation back. But yeah, without further ado, make sure you subscribe and follow along for more news.